Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Shayantani Pal, Associate Professor, Department of Ancient Indian History and Culture, University of Calcutta. Our subject for today is Indian culture. The paper is Economic History of India, and today I will be speaking about the Vedic economy. The Vedic economy is basically reconstructed on the Vedic texts, which are subdivided into two periods. One is the early Vedic economy, which is entirely based upon the data supplied by the Rig Veda, and the next phase is the later Vedic economy, which is reconstructed basically on the later Vedic texts. So, we have two sections, and this shows a remarkable transition from a pastoral economy to an agricultural economy. So, these are the topics on which I shall be speaking on today. First, the learning objectives, the period and the area of the Vedic culture. The early Vedic economy, as I have already discussed, that it extends from 1500 to 1000 BCE. The agriculture, the crafts, the trade, currency, concept of ownership of property, I will discuss on these points, and the later Vedic economy, the period is 1000 to 600 BCE, and I will be speaking on the agriculture, pottery, crafts, trade, currency, and I will discuss about the significance of the transition from the early Vedic pastoral to the later Vedic agricultural economy. First, the early Vedic economy. As I have already told you that the early Vedic economy is entirely based upon the data supplied by the Rig Veda, which has been dated from a period between 1500 to 1000 BCE, and the geographical area is very important since the Vedic literature do not cover the entire Indian subcontinent. The early Vedic period, people settled in the Sapta Sindhava area. The term Sapta Sindhava is found in the Rig Veda. Sapta means 7, and probably it referred to the Punjab, which has 5 rivers, and together with that the other 2 rivers are the Saraswati and the Drishadvati. So, this area, the area of the Rig Veda, corresponds to parts of present Afghanistan, the northwest frontier, and the parts of Punjab in India and Pakistan. This is a map showing the land of the Rig Veda. As you can see, it covers the Punjab, the northwest frontier, the northern part of the Afghanistan. Now, the nature of the early Vedic economy. As I have already discussed that the Rig Vedic economy has been regarded as predominantly a pastoral economy. Now, what is pastoral economy? Pastoral economy is principally based on the pastoralists. Who are the pastoralists? The pastoralists basically earn their livelihood on the basis of cattle breeding. They buy and sell cattle, and in return they receive food grains and other necessities of life. So, a pastoral economy is basically based on the breeding of cattle. Next, the Rig Vedic economy is actually influenced by the antecedents, that is the migration of the Aryans from outside, during which they were accustomed to a nomadic way of life. As all of us know that basically the Rig Vedic Aryans came from the Kyrgyz steppe in the present Kazakhstan, and on their way they were accustomed to a nomadic way of life. They also obtained skill in horse riding. So, when they settled in India, they did not live this nomadic way of life. Cattle was the chief form of wealth in the economy of the Rig Vedic people, and in the Rig Vedic period we have an absence of towns and cities, which is remarkably opposite to the urban character of the preceding Harappan economy. As all of us know that the Harappan civilization was basically an urban civilization. Now, the agriculture in the Rig Veda. As R.S. Sharma has counted that there are only 21 references to agriculture in the text, whereas there are 176 references to cow. So, from this ratio we can easily understand that how much importance was put on the breeding of cattle. Next, we shall discuss about some terms related to agriculture in the Rig Veda. First, we have reference to kshetra, which refers to the cultivated land. We have also the term sunasira, which refers to the plough, and the ploughshare, while shita refers to the furrow. A ploughed field dated to the 12th century BCE has been found at Aligrama in the Swat Valley. However, most of the references to agriculture occur in the 1st and the 10th mandala, which are later in date. Here I just want to tell you that the Rig Veda consists of 10 mandalas, and the 1st and the 10th mandala has been regarded as later additions, while the 2nd to the 9th mandala has been regarded as earlier in date. Now, this is the picture of the ploughed field which was seen in Aligrama, a site in the Swat Valley, and this has been assigned to the 12th century BCE. The crafts in the Rig Veda. There is a limited production of surplus, and it did not allow the craftsman to devote his full time to craft. As I have already discussed that people did not practice agriculture, they were accustomed to a nomadic way of life. So, with this limited agriculture, surplus was not produced, and so this did not allow the craftsman to devote his whole time to the development of his craft. Takshaka in the Rig Veda probably refers to a carpenter. He specialized in the manufacture of chariot wheels. Chariots were actually very important in the Rig Veda. Chariots were used for war, as well as chariot racing was a favorite pastime. So, the Rathakaros, that is the chariot makers, were quite popular in the Rig Veda. The charmana, or the leather worker, used to make water vessels, whips, horse saddles, etc. The weavers were also popular, and they used to weave garments. References to different types of ornaments like Hiranya Karna, probably referring to gold earrings, Nishka, probably referring to a necklace, indicates that ornament manufacturing as a craft was also familiar in the Rig Veda. Now, the trade. Again, there is a problem of surplus production. So, the limited amount of surplus production did not allow the growth of trade. Still, the Rig Veda refers to the journey of the merchants to distant lands in search of wealth. The term pani probably refers to the traders, but they are called the dashas and dashus. Who are the dasas and dashus? They are the slaves, they are the thieves. So, the Rig Veda do not contain a positive attitude towards the panis or the traders. Although the term samudra occurs several times, still it could have only meant the confluence of the Indus with the sea and not the sea proper. In view of the absence of surplus in adequate quantity, it is difficult to think of the practice of maritime trade in the Rig Vedic period. Now, the currency. Since the production of surplus was very limited, there was little amount of transaction. So, it is difficult to believe that in the Rig Vedic period coins were in circulation. Nishka in the Rig Veda probably refers to a specific weight and not any coin, as I have already discussed that Nishka probably referred to a neck piece, a gold ornament, and most probably the cows could have served as the chief medium of exchange in the Rig Vedic period. The concept of ownership in the Rig Vedic period. Regarding the concept of ownership, the most important point is that there was no concept of private ownership. Communal worship of property was common. The concept of individual ownership was unknown. The concept of inequality on the basis of the possession of wealth could have been unknown. As we do not have the concept of private ownership of land, so it is difficult to believe that the concept of inequality on the basis of possession of wealth was known in the period of the Rig Veda. Now, the Varna system did not crystallize as a result. Since there was no inequality on the basis of wealth, the Varna system, which is basically based on inequality among the 4 Varnas, because the 4 Varnas has different functions and different activities. So, the Varna system did not crystallize as a result. The Danastutis in the Rig Veda refers to gifts made by the chiefs to the members of the clan. This may refer to the system of redistribution of the wealth by the chief, but the chief most probably kept the most of the valuable items with him and distributed amongst his kith and kins, and the other things he distributed among the clan members. This system has been compared with the system of potlatch. What is the system of potlatch? The system of potlatch is a ceremonial feast of the American Indians of the northwest coast, marked by the host's lavish distribution of gifts or sometimes destruction of property to demonstrate wealth and generosity with the expectation of eventual reciprocation. Now, as I have already discussed that the Danastuti in the Rig Veda refers to gifts made by the chiefs to the members of the clan, this may refer to the system of redistribution of wealth by the chief. The economy of the Rig Veda has been also regarded as a gift economy. The concept of gift economy was introduced by Marcel Mauss. Marcel Mauss was a French sociologist, and he said that a gift economy is based on the idea of reciprocal gift giving practices and not on compulsory payment of taxes. Since in the Rigvedic economy the king did not claim tax, but he only received voluntary tribute from his clan members, it has been compared with the concept of gift economy. So, the giving of gift was voluntary, so it has been regarded as a gift economy. Now, we move on to the later Vedic period, which belongs to the period from 1000 BCE to 600 BCE. The sources are the Samhitas of Yaju, the Sama and the Atharva Vedas, together with their Brahmanas, the Aranyakas and the Upanishad sections. The period, as I have already discussed, belongs to 1000 to 600 BCE, and the geographical area is now different. The geographical area now shifts much eastwards, and there is a story of Videgha Madhava in the Shatapatha Brahmana, which says that Videgha Madhava followed Agni Vaishvanara in his journey towards the east, and Agni stopped at Videha. Videha is basically identified with Mithila in North Bihar. So, Videgha Madhava also settled there, and this was the easternmost limit of the later Vedic culture. So, this geographical area now began to include the Gangetic Valley, not the Punjab. The nature of the later Vedic economy. The nature of the later Vedic economy is basically agricultural. So, there is a remarkable transition from the pastoral economy of the Rig Veda to the agricultural economy of the later Vedic period. Now, the Gangetic Valley has abundant rainfall and is full of perennial rivers. So, it promoted the agricultural economy of the later Vedic period. Besides, the Gangetic Valley is also rich in alluvial soil, and all these features contributed to the expansion of agriculture in the later Vedic period, and the pastoralism period of the Rig Veda receded to the background. There are more references to agriculture in the later Vedic texts, and we also find a favorable view towards agriculture in the Atharva Veda. It says that while the Aryas practice agriculture, remember that here Aryas is not a race, Arya basically means a gentleman. So, the Atharva Veda says while the Aryas practice agriculture, the Vratyas are socially the degraded groups of people were averse to it. So, in this way the later Vedic text has a positive attitude towards agriculture, which is not found in the Rig Veda. In the later Vedic text, we find a variety references to a variety of crops like Yava meaning barley, Godhuma meaning wheat, and Brihi meaning rice. These are again found in the Rig Veda, but in the Rig Veda these references do not mean any specific type of food grains, whereas in the later Vedic period these type of references refer to specific food grains. The knowledge of agriculture is extensive in the later Vedic texts. The knowledge of agricultural seasons is found in the later Vedic texts. The later Vedic Aryans have knowledge regarding when the rice seeds should be sown. They should be sown in the rainy season and they ripens in the Hemanta season. In the later Vedic texts, we find knowledge regarding the agricultural seasons. Then use of cow dung as manure was known in the later Vedic period. There we find abundant reference to plough and its various parts. In the Atharva Veda, Vajrayansanei Sanghita, the Satapatha Brahmana, etc., they refer to the number of oxen required to draw the plough as 6 to 24. Why so many oxen were required to draw the plough? Because soil in the Gangetic Valley was much more sticky than in the Punjab. So, it was very hard to plough the field. So, most probably a large number of oxen were required to draw the plough. The Atharva Veda also contains magical formulas to protect the crops from insects, from heavy or low rainfall, and the role of fire, as I have already told that in the story of the Satapatha Brahmana, the Videgha Madhava followed Agni Vaishvanara. Agni Vaishvanara probably refers to the fire, and probably this story refers to the role of fire in clearing the forest in the Gangetic Valley. The use of iron, this is also again very important in the period of the later Vedic text. We have the beginning of the use of iron most probably from the 850 to 800 BCE. This was a significant factor contributing to the expansion of settlements in the Gangetic Valley. Iron plowshare has been found from the archaeological site of Jakhera in Uttar Pradesh. Large number of iron weapons like arrowheads, socketed axe, etc. have been found at Atranjikhera. Atranjikhera is an archaeological site in Uttar Pradesh. We have also evidence of furnace for iron smelting discovered at Jhunjhunu in Rajasthan. Here are some pictures of the iron implements, the arrowheads, the spearheads, the nails, shaft, hook. All these are from Atranjikhera, which is a site in Uttar Pradesh. But please note that most of the implements are not agricultural tools, they are basically household objects. In the economic history of India, since in the earlier period we do not have the use of iron, the use of iron indicates the expansion of agriculture, in which way the use of iron probably promotes the manufacture of agricultural tools like iron. If we use iron plowshare instead of the wooden plowshare or instead of the copper plowshare which were used in the prehistoric culture of Mehergarh or in the Indus Valley or even in the early Vedic period, the wooden plowshare or copper plowshare were used. These were not very effective to plow the field, and it took a long time to plow the field with wooden or copper plowshare. Now the use of iron plowshare probably increased productivity of land, also reduced the time to plow a field. So much more extensive areas could be cultivated within a shorter period of time. So the beginning of the use of iron, most specifically in agriculture, was a very important development. Since agriculture expanded, it could produce more and more surplus. If more and more surplus was produced, the king also could claim tax in the form of surplus, and this promotes the growth of the state. The beginning of the period of territorial state formation also promotes the establishment of urban centers, the development of capitals, the development of trade, the development of the beginning of the currency. So every historical process is most probably related to the beginning of the use of iron. Now the pottery. The later Vedic period is intimately associated with the PGW pottery. PGW is the shortened form of painted grey ware pottery. This is a specific type of grey pottery which is painted with black designs. The PGW pottery has been found from the archaeological sites of No. No is a site near Mathura, Bhagwanpur, Dadheri, Mathura, Boirat, Sonpur and Alamgirpur, etc. They have been assigned to a period extending from 900 to 500 BCE by the archaeologists. The distribution area of the PGW includes the Punjab, Haryana, Northern Rajasthan, the watershed and the doab of the Ganges and the Yamuna. This is a clay goblet belonging to the later Vedic period. These are some designs painted on the PGW pottery. As you can see, the designs are painted in black color on a grey pottery. The pottery and manufacture of iron tools were two important occupations thus in the later Vedic period. Again, the Vajasaneyi Samhita of the Yajurveda gives a long list of craftsmen, which again indicates that crafts were much developed in the later Vedic period than in the Rigvedic period. Craftsmen like Koulalo or potter, Karmaro or carpenter, Monikaro or ornament manufacturer, Dhivaro or fisherman, Sailusha or singer have been mentioned in the later Vedic texts. The occupation of a Vaidya or physician was also very popular in the society. Now the trade. The expansion of agrarian economy, the development of crafts and industries contributed to the promotion of trade, since there was production of a large amount of surplus. The term Shreshti basically means a wealthy merchant. This has been used for the first time in the later Vedic texts. The Shreshtis became popular in the later Vedic period, and accumulation of wealth through trade was important in the later Vedic period. The term Sagara clearly refers to sea in the later Vedic text. The currency, this is also important since trade crafts have developed than in the Rigvedic period. We can presume the existence of currency in the later Vedic period. Now, there is a debate regarding the existence of currency in the later Vedic period. We find that reference to the term Krishnala. Krishnala are basically seeds which were used to weigh things. So, these are units of weight, and we also have reference to the Shatamana. Shatamana means 100 Krishnalas. So, whether Krishnala and Shatamana refers to coins, there is a debate, but in view of the economic background of the later Vedic period, it is not reasonable to presume that the later Vedic period saw the beginning of coins. Basically, food grains or garments could have served as tokens of exchange. Impact of the economy on the society. The king now claimed the surplus in the form of tax that no longer remained voluntary as in the Rigvedic period. So, we have the crystallization of the Varna system. The crystallization of Varna system means basically the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas and the Shudras, all of them have been assigned different functions. So, this is regarded as the crystallization of Varna system, and this system is also based on the inequality in the possession of wealth. The king exercised his power mainly on the Vaishyas, who became the chief taxpayers. Now, the king in the later Vedic texts are called the Vali Rit, which means one who claims the Vali. Vali now assumes the form of compulsory tax and not a form of tribute, which it meant in the Rigvedic period. Now, I will summarize the economy of the Vedic period. The establishment of the agrarian economy between 1000 to 600 BCE was a landmark in the history of India. It resulted in the subsequent historical developments like the territorial state formation which happened in 6th century BCE, the urbanization which again happened in the 6th century BCE, development of trade and the beginning of coinage. And also please note that all these historical processes basically happened in the Gangetic Valley, which was the area of the later Vedic texts. So, to conclude, we must say that from the early Vedic period to the later Vedic period, we have a remarkable transition from a pastoral economy to an agricultural economy, which is very important in the development of economy of early India. Since agriculture became established, agricultural villages also became well established, and this was a landmark in the history of India, and this probably influenced the later historical processes like urbanization, the development of territorial states, the beginning of coinage, the beginning of trade, everything.